Welcome to the beautiful city of Bangalore and this conversation with Irfan Razack, the chairman of Prestige Developers and one of the most experienced and knowledgeable voices of the industry. Mr. Razack, thank you so much for spending time with us in this beautiful space at UB City. 20 years ago in Bangalore, nobody would have believed that we could have a luxury mall and a space like the one we have behind us. This was a vision that you had. And when you started off in the 80s, building your first building, I want to understand how different Bangalore was then as a market and what it's like for you today.
When we did get into this business in the mid 80s, we got into developing only office buildings. And even then our desire and dream was to do the best, to create a landmark for the city. And I'm happy to say even those buildings which I built 30 years ago still stand out amongst as the best building, and people staying there are quite happy.
On last count, this year, on square foot, you are the largest builder by far in the country in residential. Arguably, some say in most countries. Is that true?
I think all put together today, both all asset classes that we are developing, just now we are doing something like about 65 million square feet under construction.
Prestige Acropolis seems like something you can do in your sleep now.
Exactly. It's just about. So the scale that has changed, and that definitely means that the overall the demand has grown. And why is the demand grown is the city has become a hub. It's become a hub for e-commerce, hub for IT, ITES, and then all allied industries. A lot of other manufacturing industries also have grown. So job creation has happened.
With a homeowner who wants the best.
Yes.
You know, we've been tracking the Bangalore market all of these years, and there was this whole view that because Bangalore is so driven by, by end user demand, that it tended to buck the trend up till now. The last couple of quarters, we've seen corporate numbers sales have started to slow down. The RBI's disbursement numbers that came out, have also showed us a bit of a slowdown in Bangalore. Have sales from your end also begin to, are your sales guys complaining?
No, actually, there's no reason or room for complaint at all. It's a very funny situation. If you look at it, Prestige Estates listed in 5 years ago. Sure. About 2010 we listed. And after that, I've been on the television camera very often, and quarter on quarter, you need to talk about results.
You need to give them guidance.
Yeah. Every channel that you speak to. But the last 5 years, whichever anchor I speak to is always talking about when will the demand increase, how is the market, is it doing well, it seems there's a slowdown. But, amazingly, things on the ground are very different. We have grown as a company, in the last 5 years, in terms of sales itself by about 500%. And that doesn't go only to us at Prestige. Yeah. If you look at the numbers of all the listed players in the real estate space, as well as others, even their sales figures have grown in the last 5 years. It's not that they are stagnant or they've gone down. Right. It's only probably is a perception. It's a sort of, always people expect more and more.
Okay, so there is, unfortunately, there is a guidance number that has to be given out. There is this whole, so many quarters done, only this much of that guidance number has been achieved. Tell us what the reasons are. If it's not the actual end user, it's not the demand of the market, then tell us what the reasons are.
The last 3 years, whatever guidance we have given at Prestige Estates, we've always exceeded the guidance. Sure. And it's not that we gave realistic numbers on the guidance. And last year, we did something like around 5,000 plus crores of sales, which was probably the highest in the listed space. Now, I don't know about the unlisted companies. Maybe there are a couple more in the country who have done a little more than that, but I don't have the exact numbers. So it was a good feeling. No, but real estate being real estate, you can plan and plan and plan, but sometimes things don't really go the way you want them to go. Approvals don't come on time.
I want to ask you a more direct question. Are approvals hurting business?
Definitely they do.
How much are they hurting business?
No, see, they hurt the speed at which you can, if the approvals come faster, at least you can plan. If I know that whatever happens, if I have all my paperwork in order, everything in place, if I get my approvals, I can get it within, say, 90 days. Of course, the book somewhere, even for Bangalore, it says within 60 days or something they have to
even if it's 3 months, as long as you know it's 3 months.
But it doesn't happen that way because it's just not one agency that I have to go to. I have to go to some 20 odd agencies, including simple things like even telecom and all of it. So I have to get all these NOCs. And of course, as the time is going, as real estate is getting more and more prominent, there are many more television channels showing real estate, lot of talk about it, lot of talk about the growth. So everybody is looking at us with a magnifying glass, and unfortunately, we have a tendency in our Indian psyche, any industry that is doing well, so somehow you have to make sure that you bring a showstopper. You have to stop it. You have to make sure it dies. Now you had the mining industry which was in a boom. There were enough people who had an eye on it and they just killed it. Now you look at, of course, the only industry, in spite of everything, telecom has done well. And I'm sure even real estate, in spite of the government, in spite of the bad infrastructure, in spite of all the delays, we battle because you see, I would say the real estate developers are a different breed. They are dreamers. They want to create something. Now, I myself personally, it's just not the square footage or the turnover or the numbers that excite us. What excites us is the creation, and it's what excites us.
Like the building behind us, creating a landmark.
That's right, obviously.
So, okay, so tell me this. I know that you are now foraying into affordable space. I grew up in this city. I'm familiar with what the brand has always stood for. It was always that gorgeous building that you wanted to live in. You're now making that accessible, from what I understand, from the 25-30 lakh rupee bracket upwards. How are you making prestige homes at 30 lakh rupees? What will that person expect inside, in the sense that, is it the same kind of home on the inside that you're giving on your 3,000 square feet homes? Is it going to be further away from the city, smaller apartments? How are you offering that ticket size?
Yeah, now affordable, first of all, we need to define what it is. And what is affordable to me may not be affordable to somebody else.
Fair.
So I think if you look at mid-income group housing or lower mid-income group housing, so what we decided, and we, after a lot of thought and a lot of research, we understood and we realized that the demand is actually the actual user, the home buyer, the guy who really needs a home, because all classes of people need homes.
70% from what we understand.
You have 70 or 80% of the people are at the bottom of the pyramid. Now, we can't afford to ignore that market. See, because they are the genuine guys who need that home. Of course, as you go up, you have the premium, the luxury, the super luxury homes. It's not that Prestige has got out of that.
And you've chosen not to rebrand. There are a couple of builders who've picked another name for their affordable housing segment. You've continued to call it Prestige. You're not afraid of it being diluted or, you know, changing the brand's image or anything like that?
Rebranding doesn't change the culture, and I don't want rebranding also to dilute my product. You see, according to me, affordable doesn't mean to say substandard. Sometimes what really happens is, when we say affordable, you have to do everything cheap or everything substandard. Now, how do we do these homes at a smaller ticket price is really what happens is the size of the home becomes smaller. But everybody wants the similar type of look, feel, amenity, facility.
So it still feels like a Prestige product, it's just a smaller Prestige product.
Absolutely.
What are the margins like in that business for you though?
See, I believe,
does the land still cost what it costs?
See, that's the reason why we can't do the low cost housing within the CBD. It will be stupid to try that. I even try to sell a 600 square foot home where I am standing will be completely unaffordable to the target audience. So we have to go out, and as we go out, what we need support from the government, which we've been talking to them, is we need the support infrastructure, the access. Now, of course, the metro rail is getting built. It's hopefully it should get completed.
Are you getting enough response from the government on things like this? We've been talking to them as well. I'm not particularly pleased with the response I'm getting.
Yeah, it's a struggle. Now, the government, each government has a different agenda. Now, each
and a different style of functioning.
Yeah, and each government has a certain vision, has a certain will. Now, if I only wish, whichever government that is, whichever city or whichever state we're in, the government's job is to govern. The government's job is to bring governance, because I believe the government is for the people, of the people and by the people. And if the governments do not understand that, and if they feel that their job is only to somehow get elected and then get posts and just be there for the sake of being there, it just does not serve the purpose. I think that culture is, I see it changing now. I see that culture changing, and I believe that that culture has to change very drastically, because now many more young people are coming into politics.
Sure.
And they are also looking at this, because I see the one thing is, what we should look at is the citizen getting the quality of life that the citizen deserves?
Yourself, I've adopted on some level Alsur Lake, which is, you know, a beloved space in
No, it's not only Alsur Lake, it's that we've not even started. Just now we've got into an agreement to maintain that lake, clean up and maintain. But my vision for that lake is, I want it to be one of the most vibrant spaces in Bangalore, a place a person can just go, walk there and relax and not get any odor, and not get bitten by mosquitoes. So we have to do a lot of work in terms of infrastructure, clean up, a lot of area where people can just walk, jog, maybe even there's some place they can even play basketball and all of that. Children can, and it should be a safe place. And most importantly, the idea is not to commercialize it.
Sure.
Just to have it as a free open space for the public to enjoy. It's a dream, it's a big dream. We have already appointed consultants to give us some drawings and give us the scheme. Once the scheme is ready, we'll evaluate how much it costs and how much time it will take for us to do it. But in our own way, we've been doing whatever we could for the city. Like where we are standing now, the road outside UB City, we started it as a model road. We did the ducting on either side, we did a concrete road, we did the pavements, and not only have we built it, we also, to this date, we are maintaining that road. Now, this particular stretch of road, actually what it did was, it inspired the government, it set an example, and now what came about is the tender shore roads. Sure. Now, it does take time to build all those roads. Some of them have got completed, and they are definitely much more motorable, cleaner, neater. And I think the citizen also needs to contribute by seeing that they don't litter the roads, they don't mess up the roads. They, you know, unfortunately, in an Indian context, there's no respect for public spaces. You know, you vandalize, you deface. You know, these things should not happen. So if the government works in a spirit of cooperation, in a spirit of togetherness, in a spirit of partnership, they could even tell the developers who are doing these large developments to adopt the areas around their development, and at least take that up and do the roads and the pavements. I think that can be done either by giving them some additional, as an incentive, some additional FAR, sure, or maybe some remission in the fees or whatever else. But what happens is, there has to be that carrot and stick policy, and there also has to be that inclusiveness, and there has to be probably what I call respect for each other, and also there should not be that mutual suspicion. Okay. We should drop our guard against each other and believe each other and trust each other and work together. Right. I believe that lot can achieve, apart from all the taxes, everything else. Because I always see, who's the government? Government is us. And if the government is us, I think we should not have that blame game, oh, what can I do, they are like that. But if all stakeholders can get together, can discuss, can participate, and set things right without any selfish motive. Again, sometimes what happens is, everybody, when this sort of atmosphere comes, some selfish motive also starts creeping in. And moment the selfish motive starts creeping in, then each one will try to pull the other and say, hey, look, he's trying to get this done because he's going to benefit. But if that, if we are a bit selfless, if we are much more, sincere on the whole thing, and sincerity has to come from both sides, and for the greater good, like you said, amazing thing can happen.
Conversation with Irfan Razack in this beautiful space in UB City. Before we went in, we were talking into break, we were talking about the various markets that you're in. Bangalore obviously is your main market, but there are other cities that you're looking at. Mangalore, very interestingly, being one of those. Chennai, you're in Chennai as well. Of the markets that you're looking at outside of Bangalore, where are you seeing the most buyer end user interest? Which market do you think is as, or if not, somewhere down the line going to be as promising as Bangalore?
Chennai after Bangalore in south, and then afterwards you follow it up with Hyderabad, and then you go into Kochi, which is again a coastal city. Then you go to Mangalore, again a coastal city. Bangalore, I believe, is among the 100 smart cities that have been identified. Mangalore also will create a lot of jobs, and a lot of people from Mangalore are NRIs as well, like in Kochi.
Who
They
like to
also
buy,
like to buy a
homes
house
back
for themselves
in. Yeah.
once they want to come back and settle in. But you know, it's always good to have the end user as your buyer. Of course, in any real estate market, what really happens is people also tend to invest. The investment, the reason for investment is, see, you keep cash as cash.
On that note, for those people who are watching right now who are thinking, okay, this might be a good time to invest, or is this market going to fall any further? What's your advice to end users and to investors? What's your advice?
My advice to anybody who wants to buy property, whenever they decide to buy, that's the time.
That's the time. Whenever you have the money in your hand and you've made your mind.
When you have the savings, when you've identified a good property, when you feel that location suits you, when you feel that you have a need and you have that saving and you have the wherewithal to borrow the difference. And I just think they should just take that decision and buy. I've been in this business over the last 3 decades plus, and property prices over a period of time only keep going up and up and up. I gave you the example of how when we started selling homes in Koramangala for a single bedroom unit at around 3 lakhs. Now you can't get that even for whatever price. So that's how things are.
Within the Bangalore market, obviously there's Whitefield. I know you're doing a lot of construction in Whitefield right now. But if you were to tell me what you think has the most promise in Bangalore, what would that be?
See, today Bangalore being a circular city, it's spread all around. Now, it all depends on where the work is. Now today the work spots, where people have the opportunity to work, and nowadays because of commuting, it's always good to live close by where you work. The south of Bangalore has a lot of workspaces that are happening. But having said that, Bangalore North, because of the new airport and all of it, there's a lot of development that is taking place over there. It promises to be the next growth area. Workspaces are getting created, and a lot of home development also is in the pipeline. And the prices also really haven't gone up.
So in Bangalore North, for example, you expect a lot of 2-bedroom, 1,000 square feet coming up, or do you expect, I mean, we see a lot of hoardings when you drive out of the airport for 4 crore, 5 crore rupee apartments. Which one do you think is going to do better in that space?
See, one thing we must realize, how many people do you think can afford a 5, 10 or 7 crore home?
True.
There's always that small niche market for them.
It's just the top of the pyramid.
Top end of the pyramid. So when somebody designs these homes or conceives this home, just because A has done it, you can't blindly follow and become the B and the C and the D. And then what you're doing is inadvertently creating a supply in that space, an oversupply in that space, which will take years to get consumed.
Do we have that case in Bangalore right now?
I think in that space there is
4 crore and upwards. Is there an oversupply?
There's a lot of it that is there. It will get consumed because you see, I'll tell you why. Because there are a lot of the high-paid professionals that are there who get the bonuses and all that, and they want to upgrade themselves. They may be having a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom home, and then there always is that aspiration to grow into a bigger home, maybe an independent home or a larger space. So that's how the demand creation happens. And who buys the smaller spaces? Somebody who's just starting off.
Sure.
So it's a cycle.
Cycle will always be alive.
Keep on going
in Bangalore.
And of course the bottom of the pyramid in an Indian situation, because of the sheer population, because of the amount of jobs that are getting created, I think for a first-time home buyer, the opportunities which were not existing earlier are huge at the moment.
You know, the other interesting thing about Bangalore, the hoardings now, instead of selling or more than, you know, normally just selling lifestyle and selling homes, they're now selling investments. It says this much appreciation is what you can expect, or pay this much and get this much appreciation. Has there been a turn? Are we targeting the investor? It wasn't your company, but I'm just saying, has there been a turn in the way the market is selling these days?
See, it's just to give confidence that this type of angle is also projected. Ultimately, see, if you keep money, as I was saying, if you keep cash as cash in the bank, though you may be getting a return, whatever the rate of interest that the bank gives you or the mutual fund gives you, but then what after 5 years or 10 years, what you really have in your hand is depreciated money. Whereas in real estate, what really happens is, as the market inflation also catches up and the market
Technically,
grows.
equity also, stays on course with inflation. Might not be a fixed deposit, I'll give you that.
No, but I have my own thinking.
That
and
could
thought
be a
process
separate
on
conversation.
equity, because equity, is something that an ordinary mortal can't ever
Okay.
figure out.
All right, before we go down that road, I have to ask you, so we've talked to the consumer, we've talked about industry. I want you to use this platform to also speak to government. I know that industry right now is having trouble with ease of doing business, is having trouble with a couple of regulations that are coming in. If you were to send a message out to the central government at this point saying this is what we need, what would that one thing be?
No, in fact, now just before budget, a lot of people ask me, what is your expectation from the government? I said my expectation from the government is nothing. See, we are also citizens, we are also in the industry. Now, we don't want any special treatment. What we need is respect, what we need is trust, and what we also need is that ease of doing business in trying to get the approvals quickly, and that of course is not the central government prerogative. But I think some message has to be said top down, saying that look, this is an industry that is churning out and contributing almost 5% to the GDP.
Especially a government who wants housing for all.
Yes, and it's creating jobs. Ancillary industries are being created. Almost 250 plus ancillary industries are supported by just this one activity. Amount of huge labor that is used, and job creation is happening now. I'll just give you one small insight. I mean, nobody thinks in that way. Now, the amount of demand that comes from the technology parks, now they are all over the big metros in India, whether it's Bangalore or Mumbai or Chennai or Pune or whichever city, and every other city is aspirational to be also to grow IT over there. Now, these guys come in, and if they like the location, if they like the development, and of course they need the people are there.
Sure.
So, for every 100 square feet of absorption of space, it's one job. It's one job, not one home. So, that what it really means is, if in a year there's about 50 million square feet of space that gets absorbed by these companies. And who's creating those spaces? Is it us or private developers? The government is not doing it. The companies, few of them may be making their own campuses, but all of them depend on people like us to give them world-class spaces, and that is what prompts them to come and establish themselves here. So, if 50 million square feet of world-class, space means 5 lakh jobs. So, just imagine how the whole economy is getting driven. And that leads to consumption, consumer spending.
The government needs to understand the importance of this industry in building, India.
Exactly.
The other thing I want to ask you, and you're a leader of the industry in so many ways, and it's also an industry that's grappling with a lot of its own problems. There used to be a time when being a builder was about finding the land and making a plan. It's not about that anymore. There are things like customer satisfaction, customer experience, getting your approvals. But is it now going to be going forward about reputation? Is that what a builder should focus on?
Yeah,
What's your advice?
It is reputation, it is trust, it is delivery, and most importantly is, you see, the expectations also from the customers are growing. The customer also expects more and more. For whatever he's paying, whichever bracket of product that he's bought, the customer is also very demanding. So the customer focus is important. In the earlier days, maybe 20 years ago, in some of the larger cities, nobody bothered about the customers. It was like a seller's market. Look, this is it. If you want it, you take it. Otherwise, it's all right. There's somebody else standing in line to take it. But that attitude has completely disappeared, because today everybody realizes, whether you're in the biggest city or in the smallest city, that if you don't take care and service your customer, and if you don't handle your customer right, you can be out of business very soon. And delivery is the most important. Okay, our business is tough. If I have projected and planned and done everything that it takes to say I'll give delivery to my customers in say 36 months, it sometimes doesn't happen that way. You have shortages, you have labor problems, you have stoppages, you have all sorts of extraneous things that come in the way. But by and large, if you're sincere and if you're able to reach that target, give or take few months plus or minus, and if you're still, you know, there is that speed, people are there working on the job, and you demonstrate that a customer is a reasonable guy. Finally, he's also looking at converting his life saving into a home, and I don't think a customer will take advantage of you. No, and once you deliver the product, he's obviously 98% of my customers always have a good word and a prayer. There are some exceptions that everywhere is exception to rule. Every industry you have exceptions to the rule. But generally, I think it's the blessings of all these customers that keeps you going.
So the message to the government is we need ease of doing business. The message to the industry is focus on your reputation and keep that in mind. And the message to the customer is if you're ready to buy, buy now. Mr. Razack, thank you so much for spending time with us. It's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you a wonderful new year going ahead and lots of success.
Thanks.
Thank you.